Greetings, Keechlings. Keech Prime here with another One Punch Man Power Up video. Today we're doing Drive Knight, S-Class Rank 9 Hero, Volume 2. The first thing is always, with all these power up videos, I do equipment, general power up concepts, and super moves. The first piece of equipment is the compression system upgrade. This is a full body upgrade for Drive Knight, and it's derived from the research and development that they're probably going to do on Nian's body thinning ability, because he was captured alive for a reason, right? They're probably going to stick him in a lab, let him recover, observe him, gain all the information they can from his genetic structure, because they'll get a lot of it, from him because he's alive. So, yeah. And then basically one of the main reasons for this is this would give him some major performance enhancing capabilities, because if he can compress his inner components, he can then stack more equipment in there, thin it, stack, thin it, and just kind of keep doing that. The one downside with this is, even though it's giving him all the power, processing capabilities, and just performance enhancing capabilities possible, we don't know if weight becomes an issue. We don't know if Nian becomes lighter when he thins himself, so Drive Knight may have an issue, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, folks. But yeah. Next is Energy Recycler. This is an apparatus that allows him to just absorb heat and electrical energy from around himself, such as when he uses gold and he's exuded a bunch of heat like he did during his battle with Nian. He could just absorb all of that back in, and then he just recharges himself. Simple as that. So this is good energy efficiency, but he could also do this for monster attacks, negating them completely, and while also topping off the tank. And just kind of funny notion on my part, what if he got a hold of even just a piece of the Emperor Nova? Oh boy, he'll be going for days. He'll be the Energizer Bunny. But yeah, so also this has the added bonus of giving him good longevity for combat, because that seems to be his only weakness, is once he runs out of energy he can't do his transformations and seems to be mostly incapable of combat. So yeah. So this would negate that problem for him entirely. Next is the Nanites. This is a colony of nanobots that run throughout his body, performing various support functions. More on that later. Next is general power-up concepts, the first being origami shapeshifting. This utilizes the compression system upgrade that I mentioned before. This allows his body to flatten and fold, and with his more rigid robotic nature, it would be like origami, And I thought this would be a cool way for him to be able to improvise when his energy is low, and he can just make weapons out of himself. Flatten his hand, it becomes like a blade. Flatten his arm, it becomes a sword. Things like that. And with his super strength, being a robot and all, probably very effective. And plus, just like Nian, he'd be able to avoid traps, dodge attacks, all that good stuff. Next is Nanite Repair. This is what I mentioned before. Utilizing the collection of nanobots throughout his body, it provides repair works, be it physical, part of his arm gets broken in battle, they patch it up with materials from the environment, such as a car. They break it down, patch him up until proper repairs can be done. Or they can do software and antivirus, anti-hacking capabilities, because I'm sure, being a robot and one of at least two that utilize robots of the S-Class, probably, no, three, because of Child Emperor. So there's a few heroes in the S-Class that utilize technology more heavily than others. I'm surprised hacking isn't more of an issue, unless they have really good, defenses against it. But just in case he doesn't, or it hasn't ever happened but might in the future, there you go. They perform in real-time tech support for him. And, just also, in case of Nian, when he got inside of his body, and if it wasn't for the fact that he was in gold form, Nian would have wrecked him from the inside. So also having a little private defense force in there probably wouldn't be a bad idea either. Next is super moves, the first being Thin Silver. This is a souped up version of his silver transformation using the compression system. Like I mentioned, his arm becomes flattened and stuff with the origami shape shifting. Well, imagine that, but with silver. It's already a really powerful sword, but let's just make it even thinner and sharper because that's how, blades work. You sharpen them, they become thinner, more finer, and then way sharper, easier to cut stuff. So, yeah. It might be a little OP, but hey, I don't mind. You mind? I don't think you mind. Next up, given that we know that Drive Knight's all of his transformations are based on the game of Shogi, and we've seen all but 2 pieces, I thought, let's fill the gaps in, shall we? The first one being Pawn. This is also kind of derived from like an idea I had when I thought for a moment that like G5 was one of his pawns and he could just like make a bunch of them or whatever, and they could just like fill in and look different so that you don't really know that they're affiliated with him per se, but that was just a random theory on my part. But this one is the design is inspired by the classic RX-78 Gundam. These are like a system of self-replicating nanobots that are derived from the nanites. They're just like a weaker version and easily destroyed kind of deal until they, form something. But yeah, like on a full, gauge of power, he can create maybe about 50 of these, or even say 20 at a minimum kind of deal. And they're about same size as him, human size and everything. They have limited AI, so they can follow his commands primarily, but they can also do problem solving on their own if they're out of his range of command. And they're equipped with like an expandable shield, a beam sword, and an arm-mounted blaster. And they also have a special ability that we'll touch on a little bit later. All of these units are roughly the strength of a Tiger level threat, a high level Tiger threat. While they are relatively weak, they make up with it in numbers. Hence why, pawns are the most numerous, piece on any game board. So, I thought they do well in groups. And because of their versatility, they they fulfill a bunch of functions as well. They can be scouts, they can be distractions because, they're not a low cost to him to make, so he can sacrifice them if need be. They're good at crowd control, like they'll lead people to shelters, they'll protect them. They can maybe even like block off streets so that it keeps people away from active battle situations and everything. But also, like, say if there's like a flooding going on, like a monster is just flooding the streets, they can like link their shields together and block off a street and perform like a barrier maneuver, protecting, heroes and citizens alike. And also kind of mitigating some property damage as well. They can help with cleanup, because they're all robots, they're really strong. We saw how physically strong Drive Knight is, so they all might have, even if they're a little weaker than him, having a bunch of these, they make cleanup real easy. Next, they could also like perform, light combat situations. If there's enough of them, they can probably accomplish a fair bit. But, like I said, they're not the strongest on their own. So if you just send one, it's like sending an ant against an elephant in some cases. So, yeah. Next up is Heavy Pawn. This is inspired by the Dom Cannon mixed with the promotion of a pawn ability in chess where, a pawn goes across the board. You get a piece back, usually the queen. And it's just like, something weak becomes something strong. This is that special ability I mentioned before, where 5 of these form into a bigger, more powerful unit. The unit in question is roughly low to mid demon level in strength, so far more robust. It sacrifices the shield of, its components to have like heavier, more durable armor, but also, it'll keep like the swords and stuff, maybe goes like Darth Maul with them, I don't know, or just dual wielding them. Can also has like wrist mounted blasters and a shoulder mounted rocket cannon. So it's well armed, it's way physically more of a threat, and yeah, it just makes the weak strong. And finally, we have King, the last piece that we do not know anything about yet. And I thought, okay, this is going to be like the ultimate final form that he has, at least for the time being, till maybe he goes Emperor. Who knows? And it has the signature power of electromagnetism. This is inspired by the fact that when he disassembles his transformation box, it has like electrical discharge and the metal pieces are floating in the air, so there's probably a level of magnetism or electromagnetism going on there. So I thought, let's just amp that up to the 10th degree. So now he's basically Magneto, and he can just manipulate like things around him, not just his own being in the transformation box. He can like lift cars, throw them, make barriers, whatever he wants. But also, the other capabilities of the King form is that he has full access to all of the other transformations capabilities. So like he could have the strength of Rook, the speed and flight capabilities maybe of like the chariots, the knight, the flying chariot, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, just he can combine those into like a more singular thing and just have different powers whenever he needs, or has silver at his beck and call, or gold, whatever he wants or whatever he needs. But also he can then fuse these powers into new abilities, like a flaming silver, golden silver sword, or he goes knight, but it's rocket powered, so it's flying chariot and knight combined together. He becomes a centaur and he's super fast, horse mode or something. Some of it could be stupid, but I think it could be fun regardless, because, just fusing these abilities together and stacking them would probably be pretty OP for him. But hey, it's his final form. Why shouldn't he be OP, right? But yeah, anyway. Let me know what you thought of these ideas. Any ideas you have for Drive Night, let me know down below. Check out my other content, see what you like, suggest things for the future. Links down below for all my social medias to stay in touch and keep up with all my content going forward. I stream on Twitch and I'll tweet out when I go live. Part of the One Punch Man podcast on Grim Reaper's channel. And as always, thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, Keechlings, Drive Night, show us those last two forms.